I woke up to a text message from a friend of mine. He will remain anonymous. Woke up to a text message this morning talking about, yo, this is why I don't like Lecrae and Reach Records. Ugh. I'm joking, he didn't say that, but that's how I read the text message. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And he sends me this song. It was Lecrae's song. I haven't heard Lecrae's Restoration album yet, just to flat out transparency, because it's Anti-Hero Day, and I'm listening to Anti-Hero, and that's it, okay? So those of you guys that have heard Lecrae's Restoration song, project, dope. I'm sure it's good. But I heard this song, Sunday morning, something Sunday. I forgot exactly what it's called. And there's apparently another artist, Echelon Knox. So there's another artist named Echelon Knox. He has the record called Sunday, same beat, or so it seems, same thing. Kurt Franklin is on Lecrae's record. Echelon Knox has the same sounding record. The internets go crazy. Apparently his mom put up a post on Facebook saying, the biggest rapper stole my son's song. I know Lecrae's influenced by other artists. I know they have, multiple hands in the pot. And I also know that Reach is very good about compensating people. If you are part of their creative process, musically, whatever, they take care of people. They pay people. I know that because one of my best friends works with the Reach guys, Ray Rock. And I know I think he landed the intro beat or co-produced the intro beat on that record. So I know that they pay people. They pay people well. So when I heard, I was like, wait, they couldn't have just, they couldn't have just stealing this kid's record and not done anything, right? And then I dug away and I was like, well, maybe it was the same splice sample. So that was my initial thought. This happens all the time. People use the same splice samples. Lazy producers don't change the tempo or the key to their splice samples, and they just throw drums over them. Don't do that if you're a producer, by the way. If you're going to use a splice sample, the very first thing you should do is change the tempo and change the key out the gate. So I thought it was that. That's where my mind went to, because I just don't assume the worst about people, especially people I know who have solid, upright business practices like the guys at Reach do. And again, this is not to say those guys are perfect. I just know that they're not just going to steal a record like that blatantly and be like, aha. Sure enough, Lecrae addressed it. And this is the hilarious part. Lecrae addressed it and was like, yo, we got the beat from Tone Jones. And they bought the same beat called Sunday. Lecrae may have gotten the song with a hook already on it. I don't know. I don't know what was all a part of that process. But Lecrae bought the same beat, or somebody over there bought the same beat. Now, here's the great part. And shout out to Tone Jones, because Tone Jones has been, many people will refer to him as like the Christian hip hop Just Blaze. And this man's been putting in work for a long time, been making a lot of beats. And he does not sell the exclusives to his beats. What does that mean? That means if you get a Tone Jones beat, you cannot go back and say, hey, I want to buy this beat outright and own the master recording of it. I want to own this beat. He doesn't do that. He only leases his beats. What does that mean? That means that Tone Jones is licensing his beat. One beat can get licensed to a bunch of different people. So Echelon Knox can get that beat, and Lecrae 2 years later, can get the same beat. And Lecrae and them added a bunch of other stuff and instrumentation and whatever to it, right? My man's Tone Jones can sell that beat again. Like, I'm pretty sure I could get on his website. Let's look it up. Hold on. Let's see if I can find this beat. Should I do it? Yo! Hey! It's my version right here, guys. It feel like Sunday. It feel like Monday. Every single day the same to me, because I have a fun day. I am self-employed, work for myself, don't got no boss. My name is Ruslan, I'm coming and killing it, dropping the beat, and you know I'm fulfilling it, keeping it moving like this, I keep killing it. Now it's my remix, I'm so into it. Moral of the story: take notes, kids. Take notes. One, this is the issue with this. This creates a content ID nightmare, because when you upload this, a company is going to go after and get your YouTube publishing and your YouTube content ID. So what does that mean? That means that that means that this song the content ID can be claimed on this record, not just by Tone Jones, but potentially by Echelon Knox. It's a nightmare. So now they got to manually go through and show that they got the license from Tone Jones. 2, if this song gets on an ESPN commercial or a sync license, that also creates a nightmare. So the moral of the story, guys, is when you start leveling up and your music starts taking off and you start having things like sync opportunities and publishing opportunities, one, you got to be very careful with the splice looping and just not changing the key, not changing the BPM. And 2, you also have to be careful with leasing beats, because this stuff it's happened to me before. Like, I remember the only time I've ever leased a beat, I was working with my artist Jet Trouble, and Jet had this song, and it was called Clock In. He was working on a hook. I walked in, I was like, what is that? That sounds dope. And he's like, oh, it just sounded not right. He was writing too. So we leased the beat from this group, super cool about it. I was able to get a hold of them. We were still able to get it up for sync licenses. But then there was somebody else who used that same beat, and people were reaching out to me like, oh, you stole this beat from such and such artist. Right? You stole this beat from such and such artist. So this stuff can not only happen from leased beats, this stuff can happen, which is like now what's happening. And Lecrae is like, bro, I've never heard of this guy, and I believe him. I take him at his word, because if Lecrae heard a song from this dude and wanted it, they would just reach out and give him a couple grand, and that kid would be happy. And Lecrae probably would have left a part of his verse on there if he had heard the song and really loved it that much. But they didn't do that because they didn't know. So be careful with these situations, guys, because this stuff will happen to you, and it's happening at the highest level. And now this makes Lecrae look messy, like he's sitting here taking some kid songs, and he's not. But it's really like, I guess ultimately kudos to Tone Jones for having his ironclad lease agreements where you can't get exclusives to his beats. Like, this is genius on his part, man. And so this is going to, in my opinion, this is going to be how producers suffer, because more and more rappers like me and like Bats are going to be like, we ain't dealing with you guys. We just going to make our own beats. We're not dealing with these shenanigans. Are you crazy? Yeah, we just going to do that. And that's where this is all going. Just FYI. And if you're one of those producers that don't want to give up the exclusives, I'm not saying get finessed and taken advantage of. I'm just saying if you are like this and this is the model, well, for Tone, I'm sure Tone Jones doesn't care because he's already made it. But if you're trying to come up and you don't want to sell the exclusive to your beats and all this stuff, it's going to be very difficult for you as more rappers discover that, yo, we can produce, fam. This isn't that hard, especially if we have a musical background. If you can mix, you could probably produce. And I thought it was whack that people instantly assumed that Lecrae did something wrong. Stuff happens all the time. You know what I'm saying? This stuff happens all the time. So anyway.